I hid my past as a top surgeon and worked as a construction worker. When a beautiful coworker was severely injured in an accident, the doctor said, "There's nothing we can do," but I calmly said, "I'll save her in 40 minutes, and performed a miracle operation. The doctor was shocked and asked, "Who are you?" "An ambulance." "Call an ambulance." I already did. "What about the company doctor?" I went to get him. The construction site was in chaos. The scaffolding had collapsed, and a female worker had fallen from a height of about 30 feet. Judging by the bleeding and her breathing, this might be beyond saving. The words of Dr. Smith, the occupational physician, froze the air around us. In that moment, I pushed through the crowd and stepped forward. "Excuse me." I knelt beside her, checked her pupils, and felt for a pulse in her carotid artery. There may be a pneumothorax, and I suspect an epidural hematoma due to head trauma. What are you?" Suspicious eyes surrounded me. Why could a man who spent every day hauling materials possibly make medical judgments like that? When we arrived at the hospital, the chief physician of the emergency department spoke with a stern expression. "The neurosurgeon will be here in 40 minutes. In her condition, that may be too late." Upon hearing that, I made up my mind. "I'll save her in 40 minutes. "What? You're just a construction worker." The chief physician was clearly baffled. Letting an unknown construction worker operate on a critically injured patient was unthinkable. Her life is on the line. If we wait, she could suffer permanent brain damage. Even if you are competent, our hospital has procedures. There is no time. My voice was shockingly calm. No one knew about my past. Why I was even working at this construction site. The hidden truth. When I told them, the doctor's expressions changed completely. "Can you really do it?" In response to the chief physician's question, I gave a silent nod. As I entered the operating room, my body began to move instinctively. There was no hesitation in the hand holding the scalpel. At first the staff were confused, but as they followed my steady instructions and precise techniques, astonishment began to spread across their faces. "This is unbelievable. Who is this man?" I heard the head nurse whisper under her breath. Why was I at that site? What would meeting her ultimately lead to? As the monitor in the operating room beeped loudly, my hidden past and uncertain future began to intersect. "My name is Richard Harris. I'm a young employee at Springfield Construction. I usually carry materials and do simple inspections on site. Even today, I was sweating from the morning hauling concrete blocks. The summer sun beat down, and with the heat radiating from the asphalt, the construction site felt like a sauna. "Richard, take a break. You've been working non-stop for 2 hours. A senior colleague called out to me, but I wiped the sweat from my brow and replied, "I'm okay. I'll take a break once I finish this task." "You're a hard worker. Come to think of it, didn't you graduate from college? It's pretty rare for someone with a degree to get assigned here." He tilted his head as he said it. "I actually enjoy the physical work. This job is fun in its own way." I smiled as I said it. In truth, physical labor wasn't so bad. At the end of the day, a sense of fulfillment would wash over me knowing I had worked hard. "Richard, you're always so serious about your work." I turned around to see Anna standing there with a water bottle in her hand. She was in her second year at the company and worked under the same site supervisor as I did. Despite her slender frame, she handled site tasks with surprising skill. "Good morning, Anna." "It's already noon," she said with a laugh. "Do you have enough water? In this heat, it runs out fast." "Oh, thank you." Anna moved efficiently, handing out water to the other workers as well. She seemed genuinely proud of her work in construction, and always carried herself with energy and enthusiasm. She was also skilled in drafting, and there were rumors that she might be transferred to the design department someday. "Richard, you're really meticulous. I've seen how you always keep the materials area tidy, even organizing things other people leave out of place," Anna said. "Is that so? I guess I just have a habit of fixing things when I notice them. No need to be modest. Everyone relies on you, you know." Her words made me feel a little embarrassed, but being praised didn't feel bad. Later that afternoon, after lunch break, I saw Anna trying to carry a large toolbox by herself. It was clearly too heavy for someone of her build. She lost her footing and nearly stumbled. Instinctively, I rushed over to her. "Are you okay?" "Oh yes." Anna looked surprised. "Let's carry it together." "Where does it need to go?" I said, taking one end of the toolbox over to the materials area just over there. After we finished carrying it, Anna thanked me. "Thank you for earlier. Don't mention it. It was the right thing to do. That evening I was filling out the work report at the site office. Silently, I picked out numbers and filled them into the form. It was a repetitive task, but knowing this accuracy helped ensure the site's safety made it impossible to take lightly. Good work, Richard. You're still here? Anna walked into the office. She was carrying a stack of documents in her arms. Oh, you too. You're here late today. Yeah, I lost track of time while putting together materials for tomorrow's schedule. She sat down at the desk next to mine and started laying out the papers. I glanced over at her. She looked a little tired. Her shoulders slumped. Is something wrong? She looked up, slightly startled, and then let out a quiet sigh. No, it's nothing serious. I've just been having a little trouble managing expenses lately. You mean, living expenses? Yes. Both of my parents are unwell. They live out in the countryside, and I send them money every month, so things have been a bit tight for me. Anna paused, mid-sentence. She was clearly forcing a smile. I'm sorry for bringing this up. No, it sounds really tough. What about your family, Richard? They're healthy, but I haven't been getting along with my father lately. I see, Anna replied, then lowered her gaze back to the documents. I wanted to say something to offer some words of comfort, but I couldn't find the right ones. The next morning, we received word that someone from the head office would be visiting the site. The atmosphere suddenly turned hectic, and we scrambled to tidy up the material storage area and the construction zone. Shortly after noon, executives from the head office arrived on site. Leading the group was the department head, Terrence. He was tall and imposing, and the site supervisors greeted him with tense expressions. Is the progress on site going according to schedule? Terrence's voice was cold and sharp. Victor, the site supervisor, began explaining the status with documents in hand, but Terrence repeatedly interrupted him mid-sentence. Is there no more efficient way to handle this? Why is that? That solution is clearly inadequate. It was more of an interrogation than a series of questions. Victor tried his best to respond, but Terrence's expression showed obvious dissatisfaction. At this pace, we won't meet the deadline. Isn't this due to your lack of management ability? The mood instantly froze. Victor was at a loss for words and lowered his head. It was uncomfortable to watch. Yes, there were areas that needed improvement, but was it really necessary to say all that in front of everyone? Something about it didn't sit right with me. 2 days after that inspection, Terrence showed up again at a site office meeting. As he listened to the progress updates, he fired off a series of harsh criticisms. These cost estimates are far too naive. Do them over. Do you seriously call yourself a professional? The air in the meeting room grew heavy, and no one dared to speak up. With each of Terrence's remarks, the shoulders of the team seemed to sink lower and lower. Why are we using this supplier for these materials? There must be cheaper options. Did you even bother to look? Yes. We did request multiple quotes at least. At least, you're the type who's content with just looking at the second or third best options, aren't you? If this is the best you can come up with, anyone could do your job. The staff member bit their lip, unable to reply. Terrence slammed the documents down on the table. Honestly, with this level of research, how can you talk about completing a project? Don't any of you have pride in your work? The room fell silent, and no one would meet his eyes. Terrence gave a smug, cold smile and continued calling on staff one by one, repeating his barrage of criticism more than actual questions. You're the site supervisor, aren't you? Why is the schedule 3 days behind? Saying it's because of the rain is an excuse even a child could make. The problem is that you didn't prepare for it, right? Well, it was an unprecedented torrential downpour. Stop making excuses. The delay is your fault because your management is sloppy. Don't blame your own incompetence on the weather. The staff member looked down, clearly frustrated. Others in the room shrank into themselves, hoping they wouldn't be the next to be targeted. No one could predict where Terrence's gaze would land next. That fear dominated the meeting room. As the meeting was about to end, Anna quietly spoke up. Excuse me, Terrence, about the material procurement. Would it be possible to allow for a little more flexibility in the delivery schedule? Considering the current situation on site, Terrence turned a cold stare toward her, cutting her off. What year are you in at this company? This is my 2nd year. A 2nd-year employee speaking out in a meeting like this. Still as full of yourself as ever. And what was that? You want to extend the delivery deadline? Even an amateur could come up with that idea. Anna's face stiffened, but she tried to continue. No. I just meant that pushing the schedule further might be dangerous considering the safety of the site. What do you know? Site safety. Save it for your dreams. If anything, it's your soft mindset that's making the site go slack. Sit down already. Terrence's cold gaze and cutting words pierced through Anna like a predator eyeing its prey. She lost her voice, unable to do anything but remain silent. Really? Calling yourselves professionals at this level is laughable. Every second counts on site. If you can't manage cost and schedule perfectly, you're just third rate. With that final remark, Terrence spat out his closing words, and the entire meeting room fell silent. Although the faces of the managers were filled with frustration and anger, no one dared to challenge him. Under that heavy silence, the meeting was forcibly declared over, and the employees left the room with their heads down. After the meeting, I ran into Anna in the hallway. Her eyes were a little red, and her shoulders were slumped. "Are you okay?" When I spoke, Anna looked up in surprise. "Oh, Richard. Yes, I'm fine." She forced a smile. Seeing that, I felt I had to say something. "I think you were right, Anna. The material delivery timeline really is too tight." Anna looked a bit surprised, then gave a small nod. "Thank you, but maybe Terrence is right, and I'm just lacking experience." "That's not true. You're very in tune with what's happening on site." Hannah smiled a little shyly. That smile brought me a small sense of relief. "Richard, you always seem so calm and observant." I couldn't tell whether she was complimenting my perspective or subtly criticizing how I stayed detached from things. A few days later, I was working overtime at the site office when I overheard voices Terrence and Anna. As far as I knew, we were the only ones left working. "Anna, do you have time tonight? How about a drink?" Terrence's voice was oddly gentle. Anna's, in contrast, carried a hint of tension. "I'm sorry, I still have to organize these documents. That can wait until tomorrow. I'm thinking of putting you on the new project. It's a rare opportunity for someone young like you." His words were laced with clear implication. I couldn't help but listen closely. "Thank you, but I believe finishing my current work comes first." Her refusal was polite but firm. Terrence's tone suddenly shifted. "Anna, maybe you don't understand this yet, but when you let an opportunity slip away, it often never comes again, especially for someone in your position as a young woman. Thank you for the advice, but tonight, I really must." Fine. Just remember, project assignments aren't always decided by skill alone." With that, Terrence's footsteps receded down the hallway. A moment later, I heard a small sigh. I stood up without thinking and stepped out into the hall. There she was, Anna, leaning against the wall. She looked up in surprise. Her expression was clouded with fatigue and anxiety. "Richard, you heard that?" "Yes, some of it." When I answered honestly, Anna gave a tired smile. "I see, that's kind of embarrassing. The one who should be embarrassed is Terrence." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Anna looked at me in surprise. "Is he always like that?" She hesitated for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Recently, he's been speaking to me more often, but I don't have any interest in that kind of relationship." Her words trailed off. It was clear she felt uncomfortable. "Are you okay?" If anything happens, I stopped mid-sentence. If something did happen, what could I actually do? Realistically, standing up to Terrence wasn't an option. It could affect Anna's career too. This wasn't something that could be acted on so easily. "Thank you, Richard, but I'll be fine. I can take care of myself." There was determination in her voice, but I could also see the unease behind that resolve. "I understand, but if anything happens, no. Before anything happens, promise me you'll say something." That was the least I could ask of her, and this felt like the right time to talk with her a little more. "Anna, why did you choose this line of work?" I asked casually during a break. Anna paused and stared off into the distance. "My grandfather was the biggest reason." "Your grandfather?" "Yes. He was a carpenter in our hometown. When I was a kid, he used to take me to his worksite. I still remember the smell of wood, and the sound of his playing." Her expression softened. It was clear those memories with her grandfather were precious to her. The last building he worked on was our town's community center. It used to be an old wooden structure, but he preserved that charm while reinforcing it for earthquakes, and making it accessible so everyone could gather there safely. We used to have summer festivals and rice cake making events there. I practically grew up in that place, running around and playing. There was a quiet mix of nostalgia and pride in her eyes. Right before my grandfather passed away, he said, This community center will always be a place where people gather and smile. That's the true value of a building. When I heard those words, I finally understood his pride wasn't in building a structure, but in creating a space that supported people's hearts. Her voice wavered slightly. Sometime after he passed, they did another renovation on the older parts of the center, and I kept visiting the site. I watched the workers and designers seriously discussing how to make the place even more comfortable for the community. It felt like my grandfather's spirit was living on through those people. Emotion colored her words with quiet intensity. That's when I started thinking, I want to be like them. I want to create spaces that support people emotionally. Seeing how my grandfather's building still brings people together, I realized that's the kind of work I want to do. She smiled softly, eyes lowered. I could feel how deeply the legacy of her grandfather and that joyful community center had shaped her. I see, I said, genuinely impressed, and she smiled back with a touch of sadness. And now with my parents' medical expenses, I thought this job would let me earn enough to ease their burden. Anna looked down as if gazing far away, then continued. My father had a stroke a few years ago and needs constant rehab. My mother's chronic illness keeps sending her in and out of the hospital. Neither of them can work, so I have to send money home, or they wouldn't make it. A small sigh escaped her lips. Every month, it's a close call. I've stopped eating out almost entirely. The company cafeteria is cheaper, and I turn down most invitations to after-work gatherings. There was a faint look of apology on her face. I really do want to try new things and keep learning, but between my parents' care and all the unexpected medical costs, it's tough. Still, this job pays proper overtime, and if I earn certifications, I can get bonuses. Then I can send enough money to my parents and still grow on my own. I had no idea. I couldn't find the right words. I just nodded. I had never imagined that behind Anna's cheerful work attitude, she was working so hard just to keep her family afloat. I'm sorry for going on like this, Anna said, her voice trailing off in embarrassment. No. Thank you for sharing. You're doing your best even in a tough situation, Anna. She gave me a faint smile. Behind that smile I could feel the weight of her struggles and quiet strength, and it gripped my heart. There was real weight in her words. This wasn't just a job to her, it was how she supported her family and pursued her dream. I want to work in the design department someday. I want to show my parents a building I designed myself. Her eyes looked straight ahead. There was a firm determination in them. I couldn't help but admire her. Anna had a clear goal. What about you, Richard? Why did you choose this job? The sudden question caught me off guard. I just wanted to do something that would leave a mark, something that would last. That's really all. Anna looked a little surprised, then smiled gently. I think that's a wonderful reason. Buildings last for decades. Her kindness in calling such a simple reason wonderful moved me. Anna, I know things are tough, but keep going. If there's anything I can do, I will. She looked at me surprised, then smiled softly. Thank you. Hearing you say that gives me strength. In that moment, something changed inside me. Seeing how sincerely Anna lived, how much she cared for her family and her dream, I couldn't just sit back and watch anymore. She was giving everything she had for others and for herself. How could I stay silent while she was being treated unfairly? As I carried materials, I turned over different possibilities in my mind. I didn't have a clear answer yet, but there was one thing I was sure of. I couldn't let Anna face this alone. A week passed. The atmosphere at the site grew heavier by the day. Terrence's visits increased, and every time he appeared you could see everyone tense up. At that morning's meeting, Terrence surveyed the entire site with a stern expression. We're 3 days behind schedule. At this rate, we won't make the deadline. His voice was cold, and Victor, the site supervisor, bowed slightly. I'm sorry. The rain yesterday set us back on the work. No excuses. Give me a recovery plan. Victor opened his folder and began explaining the details. Terrence abruptly interrupted him. The steel frame on the east side, get that inspection done today. Victor clearly looked shaken. The east side? The scaffolding there isn't fully stable yet, and we still need to confirm safety measures. That's why I said inspect it. Terrence's voice grew more irritated. The employees around held their breath. Certainly I'll assign someone. Use Anna. Her name came out of nowhere, and everyone reacted with surprise. The east side was the most dangerous part of the site. The steel frame had just been installed, and the scaffolding was still incomplete. Normally, only experienced workers would be assigned to that area. Anna doesn't have enough experience yet. Victor tried to protest, but Terrence cut him off coldly. She said herself she wants to move to the design department. If she wants to understand structural basics, this kind of experience is essential. Anna's face tightened. Terrence was clearly using her ambition against her. He was twisting her goal of transferring to the design department into a weapon. I'll do it. Her voice was unexpectedly firm. Victor looked at her with concern. Anna, you don't have to push yourself. I'll be fine. I'll make sure everything's checked properly. Terrence gave her a short nod, wearing a triumphant expression. Good. Make sure it's done by the end of the day. After he left, concerned murmurs spread among the staff. Is she really going to be okay? That area's not fully scaffolded yet. Isn't it unreasonable to expect a full inspection in one day? Anna responded to their worries with a smile, but tension was evident in her expression. I stood in silence, listening. This was clearly a reckless order. An inspection that would normally require a team was being assigned to one inexperienced worker, and on an unstable structure with an impossible timeline. It wasn't just a task, it was intimidation. Watching Anna start to prepare, I approached her. Are you sure you're okay? She looked up at me, uneasy. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened her safety harness. Richard. Yes, I'm okay. Please don't push yourself. If it feels dangerous, get down immediately. Anna hesitated, then gave a small nod. Around noon, a shout came from the east side. She's falling. It's Anna. The moment I heard it, I ran. My heart pounded. My mind went blank. No, it couldn't be happening. When I arrived at the scene, part of the scaffolding had collapsed, and Anna had just fallen from a height of about 30 feet. Fortunately, her safety harness absorbed part of the impact, but not entirely, and it appeared she had slammed into the steel frame repeatedly as she fell. Anna. I rushed to her. She was lying on the ground, breathing heavily. Her right arm bent at an unnatural angle, and blood trickled from her head. She seemed conscious, but her eyes were unfocused. The site was in chaos. Call an ambulance. Now. I already did. Where's the company doctor? Someone went to get her. Panic and confusion rippled through the workers. Anna's condition was clearly serious. Her breathing was shallow and irregular, and her skin was pale. Dr. Smith, the occupational physician, arrived moments later. She quickly examined Anna, and her expression darkened. There was hesitation in Dr. Smith's voice. She was trying to explain Anna's condition over the phone to the paramedics, but she seemed unable to find the right words. With this level of bleeding in her breathing, this could be critical. Her words sent a chill through the air around us. Anna's condition seemed to be deteriorating by the second. In that moment, my body moved on its own. Excuse me, I pushed past the others and knelt beside Anna. First, I checked her pupils and the pulse in her carotid artery. Then I gently palpated her chest and examined the bleeding wound on her head. There may be a traumatic pneumothorax, and I suspect an epidural hematoma caused by head trauma. My voice was surprisingly calm. Even I was amazed at how sharply my mind was working. First, we need to secure her airway. Dr. Smith, please check her blood pressure and establish a fourth line if possible before the ambulance arrives. I adjusted Anna's position to secure her airway. Then I applied clean gauze to her head to control the bleeding through direct pressure. Richard, why are you? Dr. Smith's voice was filled with disbelief. Even the workers around stared at me, stunned. Her breathing is unstable. We need to relieve the pressure in her chest cavity. Without hesitation, I began a chest intervention. I took a pen from my pocket, removed the casing and inner parts, quickly disinfected the tip with antiseptic, and located the appropriate site. She may have a tension pneumothorax. I'm performing a needle decompression. Dr. Smith looked at me, shocked. Richard, are you in the medical field? Yes, I'm actually a licensed physician. Gasps rose around us. The doctor? Richard? This isn't the time for jokes. No. He might really be one. Just look at what he's doing. I spoke clearly, cutting through the noise. I graduated from K College of Medicine and worked for 5 years as an ER doctor. My license is valid. Dr. Smith, I need your cooperation. She hesitated for a moment, but after seeing the seriousness in my expression and the calm precision of my treatment, she quickly changed her demeanor. I understand. Please give me instructions. Keep checking her blood pressure and pulse continuously. Then, I continued treating Anna while giving clear instructions. Bleeding control at the head, airway support, and most critically, decompression of her chest cavity. The other workers, shaking off their initial shock, began moving according to my directions. One brought clean towels, another fetched a board to provide shade, and someone else ran to guide the ambulance. Everyone was working to save Anna. "Richard, the ambulance is here." Paramedics rushed over. I calmly explained Anna's condition and the procedures I had performed. She likely has a pneumothorax, head trauma, and a possible fracture of the right upper arm. Her breathing has temporarily stabilized after emergency decompression, but she needs immediate hospital treatment. The lead paramedic listened carefully and immediately sprang into action. "You performed the treatment, correct? Will you ride with us?" "Of course." I got into the ambulance and sat at Anna's side. Her face was pale, and her breathing still hadn't stabilized, but it seemed we had managed to pull her back slightly from the brink. When we arrived at the hospital, the emergency department team was already waiting. As I waited in the lounge for the results, a storm of emotions stirred inside me, a mix of clinical calm as a doctor and deep concern for Anna as a friend. That was when the chief physician from the emergency department appeared. "We have the CD results. As you suspected, she has a tension pneumothorax and an epidural hematoma. Additionally, we found a splenic injury. She needs surgery immediately, but there was urgency on the doctor's face. Unfortunately, our on-call neurosurgeon fell ill today, and the closest one available will take over 40 minutes to arrive. With the condition of this hematoma, waiting that long could lead to irreversible brain damage." I looked at Anna's CT scan. The situation was serious. The hematoma was pressing on her brain. If left untreated, it could be fatal. "If we can't wait for a neurosurgeon, I'll do it." The chief physician looked stunned. "I can perform a craniotomy and evacuate the hematoma within 40 minutes. There's a chance to save her. You have neurosurgical experience?" 6 months during my residency, and as an earth physician, I've handled numerous cranial trauma cases. I may be working on a construction site now, but I haven't lost my medical skills. The chief physician hesitated. Letting a stranger perform emergency surgery on a critical patient would normally be unthinkable. Even if you're a skilled doctor, our hospital protocol. I used to serve as a simulation instructor at K College Hospital. I'm thoroughly familiar with emergency protocols. The chief's expression shifted. K College Hospital was one of the nation's top emergency centers. K College. Were you under Professor Scott? Yes. I trained directly under him. If you want to confirm it, feel free to call him right now. A flash of recognition appeared in the chief physician's eyes. He clearly knew Professor Scott, a leading figure in emergency medicine. "I'll verify that." He quickly made a phone call. After a brief conversation, he nodded. "You have Professor Scott's direct recommendation. We've secured special approval from the hospital director. The ore is being prepped." Thanks to Professor Scott's name, an emergency exception had been granted. The chief added, "I can't believe a doctor of your caliber is working on a construction site. But now's not the time for that. Please help us save her life." And with that, the surgery began. My hands did not shake once. Although it was an intense procedure to remove the hematoma and relieve intracranial pressure, my training and experience as a doctor were etched into every movement. Each step was precise, efficient. The surgical staff followed my lead, and we worked in perfect coordination. "Your technique is incredible," the head nurse, likely speaking unconsciously, murmured under her breath. I couldn't respond. My focus never wavered. As planned, the hematoma was removed within 40 minutes, and we successfully reduced the pressure inside her skull. We then moved on to her chest and abdominal injuries. I stayed by Anna's side, assisting until every procedure was complete. After the surgery, the medical team showed me deep respect. "That was an exceptional surgery, Richard." "No, Dr. Harris. She's made it through." Only then did I feel the tension inside me release as exhaustion crashed over me. But I couldn't fully relax yet. "Thank you, but we're not out of danger. There's still a risk of long-term effects." The chief physician nodded gravely. "That's right. The brain has suffered widespread damage. We did everything we could, but whether she regains consciousness, and even if she does, there's a high risk of cognitive and motor function impairments." Those words sank heavily into my heart. Anna's life might have been saved, but whether she would ever return to work with that same bright smile, no one could say. For now, all we can do is hope for her recovery. I nodded quietly at the chief physician's words. 3 days after the surgery, Anna finally regained consciousness under intensive care in the ICU. She looked nothing like the person I had seen at the construction site. Her face was marked with painful bruises, her head was wrapped in bandages, and she was connected to IV lines and machines. Still, as the steady beeping of the monitor filled the room, Anna slowly opened her eyes, looked around, and when she saw me, she gave a faint smile. "Richard." Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "Anna, you're awake. Don't push yourself. You don't have to talk yet." I sat in the chair beside her bed and gently held her hand. She seemed dazed, her eyes gazing vaguely at the ceiling. "I'm okay. It hurts a little, but thank you for saving me." Even in her weak voice, I could feel her sincere gratitude. "You're probably in pain, but you really fought hard. The doctors say the surgery was a success, and your life is no longer in danger. You'll need rehab, but we'll take it one step at a time." "I see. That's good." She gave a small, relieved smile, and closed her eyes again. Her strength was clearly drained. Just staying awake must have taken all she had. Not wanting to push her into continuing the conversation, I lowered my voice and gently added a few quiet words. "Rest for now. I'll come back again soon." She gave a slight nod, and then her breathing grew slow and quiet. Although she hadn't fallen into a deep sleep, I knew she was clinging to what little strength she had left. She needed rest more than anything. A few days later, Anna was cleared to move from the ICU to the general ward. But the pain in her body remained intense, and walking was still impossible. That day, as I was walking down the hospital corridor, I ran into Victor. He wore a serious expression as he approached me. "Richard, there's something I need to talk to you about. There's a rumor going around about Anna's workers' compensation claim. The claim, which I had assumed the company would handle properly, apparently wasn't moving forward smoothly." A terrible feeling started to build in my chest. "What do you mean?" "Nothing's official yet, but word is that the head office might try to deny the claim, saying the accident was due to her own negligence. Apparently, Terrence has been saying things behind the scenes." As I listened, anger began to boil inside me. Anna climbed the dangerous scaffolding because Terrence ordered her to, so how could the blame possibly fall on her alone? And Anna didn't know anything about this yet. She was still recovering, still vulnerable physically and emotionally. "Please don't tell her. Not yet. She needs to focus on getting better." "Sure. If I hear anything more, I'll let you know right away." We shook on that promise, and Victor left. But what awaited Anna was worse than I had imagined. A few days later, as I hurried down the hallway toward Anna's hospital room, I noticed the door slightly ajar, and from inside, I heard a low, muffled voice as if someone were holding back tears. A wave of dread hit me. No. What am I supposed to do? It was Anna. Her voice trembled. There was no sign she was speaking with anyone in person. It might have been a phone call. I knocked softly on the door. "Anna, may I come in?" Not wanting her crying to be seen, she took a moment before finally answering. "Come in." When I entered the room, Anna was sitting with her head down, clutching her phone tightly. Her eyelids were swollen and red, and the traces of tears streaked down her cheeks. "Anna, what happened? Who were you talking to? The company, or maybe someone from the head office?" "They said they were from Human Resources." Her voice trembled, and tears looked ready to fall again at any moment. I sat down beside her and met her eyes. "Did something happen?" "They just called me." She bit her lip and struggled to get the words out. "They said there's a strong chance the accident will be considered my own fault, that getting it certified as a workers' compensation case will be difficult." For a moment, I couldn't process the words. My mind went blank. I had heard rumors, but to hear it confirmed like this is ridiculous. I clenched my fists in frustration while Anna lowered her head, still clutching her phone, and began to tremble. "I still have to pay for my parents' medical care, and now there will be all these treatment and rehab costs. How am I supposed to?" Tears fell, one after another, her bandaged head, the IV in her arm, everything about her looked fragile, on the verge of breaking. I thought the company would back me up. I believed the bosses would do the right thing. But then I get a call like this out of nowhere. What am I supposed to do? Her voice cracked into sobs, the floodgates of her emotions finally breaking open. She had climbed that dangerous scaffolding because of Terrence's unjust command. How could anyone call that carelessness? "Anna, don't cry, no. Cry if you need to, but this is wrong. We're going to make everything clear. Who sent you to that dangerous area, and why you were rushed every part of it. I won't let this go." She turned her tear-soaked eyes away, trembling, and shook her head. "But it was Terrence's order, yes. But some people are saying I didn't speak up, that I should have refused, that it was poor judgment on my part." Her voice trailed off into a pained whisper. The idea that her workers' comp claim might be denied her one thread of hope shook the very foundation of her future. Beyond treatment costs, there was the question of how she would support herself during the long months of recovery. Anna, I called her name, but she only shook her head weakly. The thread she had been hanging onto must have finally snapped. Silent, endless tears continued to stream down her face. All I could do was sit beside her and wait for them to stop. I gently held her limp hand, trying to find the right words. "You're going to be okay. I swear. This kind of injustice won't stand. I'll do something about it, and I know Mr. Harris won't stay silent either." Her shoulders were still shaking, but I thought I saw a flicker of relief in her eyes. Eventually, with a choked sob, she whispered, "I'm sorry for dragging you into this, and for being a burden on work, on everything. Don't apologize. Anyone can have an accident. It's the company's responsibility to prevent them. So hold your head high. I'll know. We'll handle this." I knew she was still afraid. But in this moment, while she cried in front of me, I had to be the one to stand beside her. Her fingers, though wrapped gently around mine, were still ice cold from the shock and fear. Leaving the hospital, I flagged down a taxi and headed straight for the site. Despite everything that had happened, I'd heard that Terrence was still on site, barking out unreasonable orders like nothing had changed. It didn't take long to find him once I arrived. "Terrence, do you have a moment?" He looked up, raising an eyebrow in irritation. "What is it?" "I'm busy." I met his eyes squarely and spoke, my voice firm and clear. "It's about Anna's workers' compensation claim. Why is it being denied?" "Oh, that. Unfortunately, there were issues with the paperwork, and there's also the possibility that she failed to follow on-site safety protocols. The matter is still under careful review." His words made my anger swell even further, but I had to keep my composure. "Terrence, many employees can testify that you personally ordered Anna to inspect the east side frame during the morning briefing that day." I gave the order. "Yes. But safety enforcement was her responsibility. You ignored Victor's warning that the scaffolding wasn't stable and still rushed her into action." Terrence's face hardened. "What exactly are you trying to say? You're just a worker. Don't overstep your place by questioning a management decision." This man still didn't understand. He didn't know who I really was, or why I was standing here now, confronting him with full intent. "Terrence, I'll say it again. Process the workers' compensation claim." "I refuse. The company's direction is mine to decide." "No. It's not your decision to make." I reached into my pocket and placed my employee ID on the table. Next to it, I laid down a special ID card given to me by my father. "I'm the son of Charles Harris, the president of Springfield Construction." The color drained from Terrence's face. "What are you saying?" "I'm also the company's designated successor, and I've been gaining field experience here under my own request." Terrence picked up the card and scanned the information. Mr. Harris's handwritten signature. The company seal. Undeniable proof. It's real. It even grants access to the executive suite. If you doubt it, I'll demonstrate it at the head office later. Terror began to creep into Terrence's expression. "Why didn't you say anything? You've been working here as just an on-site worker." His voice trembled. I answered with calm clarity. "I've been watching my father's work ever since I was a child, and to me he was always someone who prioritized profit above everything else to grow the company." That memory still squeezed painfully in my chest. I vividly remember the day I visited a worksite during an elementary school field trip. I used to look up to my father. Every time I visited a construction site, I was mesmerized by how massive buildings came to life. "Dad, I want to build buildings like this too." I said that once, and he smiled proudly. But things started to change when I reached middle school. One day, there was an accident at a site. A worker had been injured, and my father rushed to the hospital. That's when I first saw that cold look in his eyes. Again, "Our insurance premiums are going to go up this year." That single sentence shattered something inside me. Someone was in pain, and all my father could think about was numbers. From then on, I began to question his work. When I was in high school and had to choose a path, that memory played a big part in why I decided to become a doctor. I wanted to pursue a profession where life, not money, came first. My father was furious. He insisted I should take over the family business, but my mind was made up. I entered medical school and gave it everything I had. After graduating, I began working as an emergency physician and faced many lives in crisis. Among them were numerous patients who had been injured on construction sites. I heard the same words over and over again. If only there had been better safety measures, if the company hadn't forced such tight deadlines. I took pride in saving lives as a doctor, but at the same time I often felt powerless. Even if I could save the person in front of me, I couldn't change the cause that put them there. And I began to wonder, rather than saving one life at a time, wouldn't it save even more people to change the system before lives are put at risk? When I decided to enter my father's company, it wasn't just to carry on the family business. It was to change the situation from the ground up. But giving orders from the top doesn't change anything. You can't make real reform without understanding what happens on the ground. It was the same in the medical field. Hospital directors and upper management always said patients come first, but behind the scenes, they only cared about numbers and left doctors and nurses on the front lines completely worn out. The top didn't know what the bottom was going through, and the bottom couldn't tell the top what was really happening. Nothing improves in that kind of environment. That's why I decided to start from the field, to see it with my own eyes, to experience it with my own hands, and to find out what the real problems were. That's the real reason I joined the company as a site worker. I looked Terrence straight in the eye. Do you even understand what this company stands for? What Springfield Construction values most? Terrence started to speak but fell silent, unable to answer. This company isn't just about constructing buildings. It's about creating safe structures that protect people's lives and, just as importantly, valuing the lives of those who build them. This isn't just an ideal. It's the very reason Springfield Construction exists. I can't stand by and ignore the unfair treatment that causes suffering to our on-site employees, especially when someone like Anna, who works with such passion, is being treated unjustly. I revealed my identity to uphold the company's values and, above all, to protect the employees working here on the ground. I said everything I had to say, and when I looked around, everyone on site was staring at me in stunned silence. I bowed my head to them. I'm sorry for keeping this a secret. Richard, I can't believe Richard is the son of Mr. Harris. And a doctor too? I'm still trying to process that. But his dedication was real. That part was never fake. Victor placed a hand on my shoulder. The warmth of that gesture filled me with emotion. I'll admit, it was a surprise, but after everything we've seen from you, it doesn't matter what your position is. To us, you're still one of our own. The others nodded in agreement with Victor's words. Seeing how naturally they accepted me brought a quiet sense of relief. Thank you. I never intended to deceive anyone. I just wanted to truly understand what the worksite is like. Their expressions softened. They seemed to understand what I truly meant. At that moment, I heard someone call my name. Richard. I turned around, and there stood my father, Charles Harris. The entire atmosphere instantly shifted. Everyone on site stiffened and bowed their heads with tension. The presence of Springfield Construction's president was enough to silence the entire scene. He looked slowly around at the workers, then turned his gaze back to me. What is going on here? His voice was firm, but there was a hint of confusion rather than anger. The employees around us held their breath, watching the scene unfold in silence. I gave a brief explanation from the details of Anna's accident, to how Terrence was now refusing to process her workers' compensation claim. Terrence, for once, didn't say a word. My father listened quietly, then gave a deep nod. When you said you wanted to become a doctor, I was against it. I wanted you to take over the company, but you wouldn't listen. And then, after getting your medical license, you asked me to hire you as a site worker. I had no idea what you were thinking. He let out a long, heavy sigh. I stood quietly, listening to the weight behind his words. By now, many of the workers on site had gathered around, watching the scene unfold with uncertain expressions. Dad, I began to speak, but before I could finish, Victor stepped forward and addressed my father with determination. Mr. Harris, if I may, we've worked with Richard this whole time, thinking he was just one of us. We had no idea he was your son not until today. The others all nodded in agreement. Everyone still looked a little stunned at the revelation, but it's not about hiding his identity or anything like that. Richard really helped us. He took on the dirtiest jobs without hesitation. He even walked the dangerous areas with us during safety checks, another young worker added loudly. When Richard found that collapsed scaffolding, he probably prevented a serious accident. And after that, he helped us report it to management. He didn't leave us to handle it alone. Then another voice joined in. That's right. Terrence gave us unreasonable orders all the time, but Richard never backed down. He said straight to his face, "That's dangerous for the crew." Honestly, I thought he was just another upper-level guy at first, but no, he stood with us on our level. Their words carried a genuine, undeniable warmth. I never imagined they had seen me just as I was and valued me this much. It felt a little embarrassing, but more than anything, it made me happy. My father listened to their voices in silence, his usual sharp gaze fixed on them. But this time I could sense a mixture of confusion and surprise in his eyes. No one imagined Richard was your son, but even knowing that now, our opinion of him doesn't change. When Victor said that, my father widened his eyes, glanced at me, then turned back to face him. What do you mean? It doesn't matter who he is. He never tried to act like he was better than anyone. If anything, he was the one getting his hands the dirtiest. That's why we could trust him. That's why we could talk to him about making things better. The workers around us all chimed in, backing Victor's words. We can never thank him enough for everything he's done. That's why. Please try to understand Richard. Their words brought a tightness to my chest. Voices rose from all around saying things like, "That's right. Richard's a lifesaver, and he's one of us. A worker, his family status doesn't matter." My father slowly lowered his eyes and let out a small sigh. His expression was one I'd never seen before, a mixture of reflection, humility, and a hint of emotion. "I had no idea you were so respected on site," he murmured. Then he looked up at me again. "When you said you wanted to be a doctor, you chose your own path. Now, you've gone undercover on site to find out what's really going on in this company. I thought that was the extent of it, but clearly you've gone far beyond my expectations. You've already earned the trust of the field." He stared at me, and for a moment, I couldn't find words. But his voice now carried a tone I had never felt before, gentle, sincere. "Dad, I just wanted to understand the reality that numbers and paperwork can't show what's really happening on construction sites, what dangers and hardships people face, and how this company and its employees can truly find happiness. The only way to know that was to step in myself." As I spoke, the workers around began to quietly applaud. Feeling their support at my back, I met my father's eyes. He gave a single nod, then allowed himself a slightly bitter smile. "I see. Hearing your thoughts and the voices of those here, I finally understand what you were trying to do. I always talked big about you taking over the business or giving up medicine. But maybe I was the one who only ever looked at the surface of this company." The workers all looked surprised, but somehow relieved. Victor, too, placed a hand over his chest and exhaled deeply. I called out, and he closed his eyes briefly before speaking again. "All right. I'll take full responsibility for investigating the matter with Terrence, and if necessary, I'll make sure strict disciplinary action is taken. A manager who gives reckless orders is nothing but a danger to this company. And from now on, I want to hear directly from the people on the ground, not just with you, but with all of your coworkers here. Let's rebuild this company together." In that moment, he didn't speak as a president, but as a man of father. His eyes carried a quiet resolve, and perhaps just a hint of apology. A wave of applause erupted from the workers around us. "We did it, Richard. Now Terrence won't be able to push us around anymore. Mr. Harris, we're counting on you." Their voices echoed with relief and renewed energy as they began chatting and laughing with bright expressions. Standing in the middle of it all, I finally allowed my shoulders to relax. The long-standing tension between me and my father and the issues brewing inside the company had finally begun to move toward resolution. When I glanced to the side, I saw my father looking at me with a smile that, though a little awkward, clearly held a sense of pride. "Mr. Harris, thank you truly. Having Richard with us has been a huge help, and now that you're standing here with us too, I think we'll be able to speak up more freely." When Victor said that, my father gave a small, awkward nod. "Yes. Please do. From now on, I will treat employees who speak up for the good of the company with respect." I never expected my own son to be the one to teach me that. There was warmth in his voice now, unmistakably so. Like the snow finally beginning to melt after a long winter. The wall that had stood between us for so long had begun to crumble. As the workers joked around shouting "Cheers for Mr. Harris" and waving cheerfully, I took a deep breath. Part of me felt that all our efforts had finally been rewarded, but another part knew this was only the beginning. Still in that moment, I felt genuine gratitude for the people around me, my fellow workers and my father, who was starting to change. "Thanks, Dad. From here on, let's rebuild things together." When I said that, he looked away for a moment, a little embarrassed, then gave a slow, quiet nod. Watching him, I took another deep breath and strengthened my resolve. I pulled a small notebook from my pocket. Inside were notes I had taken, everyday observations from the field and conversations with coworkers. Springfield construction is full of highly skilled workers and people who take pride in their jobs, but at the same time, there's a culture that prioritizes deadlines over safety and profits over people. I spoke clearly using specific examples. There are sites where workers are forced to operate on unstable scaffolding, where essential safety gear is withheld due to budget cuts, and where those who point out problems are unfairly marked down on evaluations. My father's expression gradually grew more serious, and the most severe cases involved Terrence directly. I explained his misconduct in detail, inappropriate contact with Anna, forcing her into dangerous tasks, and applying pressure to suppress the workers' compensation claim. We have evidence. I took out another folder. Inside were testimony records and photographs we'd gathered over the past few weeks, thanks to the help of Victor and many other employees. There have been 4 major accidents on sites Terrence has overseen in the last 3 years. Every single one was due to poor safety planning and rushed timelines, I explained as I showed the photos. Images of unstable scaffolding, equipment that didn't meet safety standards, and copies of evaluation reports used to retaliate against employees who pointed out those problems. My father looked through each document carefully, his face growing more tense. This is one of the projects from last year. Even though there was a similar incident, no additional safety measures were put in place. He stared at the photo for a long time. He had personally praised Terrence for his work on that project, and even promoted him. And this is the directive given to Anna just the other day. It clearly violated safety standards. Yet he tried to place the blame on her. When I finished explaining, the room fell silent. After a long pause, my father spoke. "You did well gathering all this." His voice was calm, but I could hear the anger beneath it. "As president of this company, I bear responsibility for having overlooked this. Starting today, I will rebuild this company with safety as our top priority." He stood, turned to face the workers and addressed them directly. "I know we've caused you all trouble. If there are issues or concerns you haven't been able to raise until now, speak freely from today on." The workers' expressions began to shift. The fear and tension that had filled them slowly gave way to hope. My father placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "In front of everyone, I'm glad you joined this company. I'm proud of you." "Thanks, Dad." My father nodded with an awkward smile in response to my words. The following day, the main conference room at the head office was filled with executives and department heads, tension hanging in the air. At the center table sat Terrence, pale and downcast. My father presided over the meeting, and I attended as a special committee member for the internal hearing. "Terrence, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the evidence and testimonies we've gathered." My father spoke in a low, firm voice. Terrence began to mumble an excuse, barely audible. I believed my decisions were necessary to meet deadlines for the sake of the company, but my father cut him off sharply, his expression stern. "Putting employees in danger, how is that for the good of the company?" Terrence faltered and fell silent. I calmly laid out the documents in front of me. The collapsed scaffolding 2 years ago, the injury last year, both were caused by your disregard for safety regulations, and afterward, you shifted the blame onto your subordinates. The head of the legal department added flatly, "This may constitute a violation of labor safety laws, and could result in criminal charges." Terrence turned ghostly pale. "The hotment against Anna has also been confirmed by multiple witness statements." The head of HR continued coldly. The room was silent. Then my father spoke with finality. "Terrence, your actions constitute a serious breach of conduct. As of today, you are hereby dismissed." Terrence looked up in disbelief and desperation. "Mr. Harris, I've worked for this company for 15 years. Please reconsider." But my father shook his head. "You weren't protecting the company. You were protecting your own reputation. That goes against everything Springfield Construction stands for." The legal chief followed up. "Compensation will be provided to the victims, and we will report all findings to the proper authorities." Terrence bowed his head in defeat. His years of misconduct had finally been brought into the light, and judgment was passed. After the hearing, my father and I went to the hospital together. We wanted to report everything directly to Anna. When we entered the room, she was sitting upright in bed, gazing out the window. Her color had improved, and I felt a little relief. "Anna." She turned at the sound of my voice. And when she saw my father standing beside me, a look of surprise appeared on her face. "Mr. Harris." He quietly stepped closer to her bedside and bowed deeply. "Anna, I want to offer my sensuous apologies for everything you've been through." Anna looked confused, unsure how to respond. "On behalf of the company, I deeply regret what happened. Terrence's actions were unacceptable. He's already been dismissed. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes at his sincere apology. Your injury has also been officially recognized as a workplace accident. My father took out an envelope and handed it to her. This is the official workers' compensation certification. The company will cover all medical expenses, rehabilitation costs, and provide full compensation for your time off. With trembling hands, Anna took the envelope. It was as if a heavy burden had finally been lifted from her shoulders. Thank you so much. Her voice trembled with emotion. It was the sound of relief tears that came from finally being free of fear and uncertainty. My father smiled gently and then turned to me. My son will explain what comes next in more detail. Please trust him. As he said those words, my father quietly left the hospital room. Left alone with Anna, I saw a look of surprise still lingering on her face. Richard, I had no idea you were Mr. Harris's son. I gave a small, sheepish smile. Sorry for the surprise. But this is who I really am. Anna responded with a soft, warm smile. A doctor and the president's son. Richard, you really are something else. Hearing that, I met her gaze with a serious expression. Anna, may I talk to you about what's next? I sat down beside her and explained her condition and recovery outlook from a medical perspective. Head injuries take time to heal. Fortunately, she avoided any severe long-term complications, but a period of rehabilitation would still be necessary. Her broken arm would also require several months to fully recover. That sounds difficult, she said quietly, a slight shadow crossing her expression. I gently took her hand. But you won't be alone. I'll be here supporting you the whole way. Her eyes lit up with hope. And the company is changing. By the time you're back, it'll be a completely different place. I went on to explain the plans in motion, a total overhaul of our safety management system, a new framework to ensure frontline workers' voices would reach the bosses directly, and above all, a new company culture that puts employee safety before anything else. That sounds wonderful, Anna said, her voice filled with quiet hope. And based on your performance so far, your transfer to the design department has been officially approved. Once you recover, you'll be able to chase your dream. Her face brightened instantly. Really? Yes. Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. They were tears of joy. Thank you so much, Richard. Over the next few weeks, Anna steadily progressed through her rehabilitation. At first her limbs moved awkwardly, and there were moments of confusion, but day by day she improved. I was there every day to support her recovery. I worked closely with her doctors to help adjust her rehabilitation plan and ensure she had everything she needed. Meanwhile, sweeping reforms were underway at the company. Together with my father, we conducted a complete overhaul of the safety management system and assigned safety supervisors to every job site. We also introduced a safety improvement proposal system that allowed frontline workers to voice their ideas directly to the executive team, and many employees began submitting suggestions enthusiastically. Victor and the other site supervisors gave their full support to the transformation. You were right, Richard. It's only when the site is safe that we can do good work. With every word, I felt more confident that we were truly making a difference. 3 months after Anna's hospitalization, I visited her room with exciting news. I pulled a folded document from my pocket. What's this? It's the proposal notice for the design competition of our new headquarters building. I want you to be part of the project when you return. Anna stared at the document in disbelief. But I still don't have enough experience. You'll be fine. Everyone already knows about your talent and knowledge. And this isn't just any building. It's a symbol of the new Springfield construction, one that puts the safety and well-being of its employees above all else. A spark of light returned to Anna's eyes. Her dream was finally becoming a reality. A few months later, Anna returned to work and began thriving in the design department. Though some effects of the accident remained, her passion was stronger than ever. When she focused on refining her designs, she looked like a completely different person, confident, driven, and full of life. My right arm still aches a little though, she admitted with a sheepish smile one evening after work. Don't push yourself. Just say the word, and I'll help you up anytime. Thanks, but if I rely on you too much, I'll stop growing. That determined side of her never fails to surprise me. Watching her throw herself into her work is oddly inspiring and fills me with motivation too. Since then, we've become a couple. I think going through the accident and getting to know each other on a deeper level brought us closer naturally. Word seems to have gotten around the office now and then a junior colleague will tease us with, "You two make such a great pair." Tonight, as I was still going over documents late into the evening, She quietly walked over and stood beside me. "Hey, are you done for the day? Ready to go home?" "Yeah, I think so. Oh, and my dad's been pestering me to bring you over already." "Ah, then maybe I'll keep this weekend open." Her laughter reminded me of how bright and full of energy she was before the accident. Thinking back, she used to be constantly overworked due to her family situation, but now she's able to speak about the future with a smile. My father and the company have slowly begun to shift toward truly valuing people. Chasing profit alone may bring short-term results, but ignoring danger and dissatisfaction will eventually break both the organization and the people within it. Prioritizing life, safety, and the well-being of others is what ultimately makes a company stronger and turns buildings into something more meaningful. Far above us, stars had begun to twinkle in the night sky. Quietly we held hands, sharing a small smile as we looked ahead toward the dreams we were building at work and the future we were beginning to build together. Thanks for watching. Take care, good luck.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **